Hi there, and you're very welcome to the UCD Fees and Finance Information webinar today. My name is Catherine Tormey, and I'm the Mature Student Advisor in UCD, and I'm here with my colleagues, Colin Smith, who takes care of pre-entry support, and Enya Murray from the outreach team, Enya, who are going to be looking at your queries as we go through the webinar. And we're also delighted to be here with Carla Gummerson, who is a UCD mature student and current graduate SU sabbatical officer. And I know a lot of students who have registered for this webinar are coming in as mature students. So Carla has agreed to share a little bit about her experience of life as a mature student in UCD and give you some of her tips. As we go through the webinar, if you have any questions, you can put them in the Q&A. So there's an icon at the bottom of your screen, and if you just click on that icon, you'll be able to type in your query, and Anya and Colin will be coming back to you with answers to those queries as the webinar progresses, and putting some queries to me at the end. If for any reason we don't get to your query today, then I'll email you a reply in the next day or two. Okay, so that's who we are. And today we're going to cover fees, finance and scholarships that are available in UCD before we move on to have a chat with Carla. So the three possible fee categories that you may be eligible for when you enter into UCD are undergraduate free fees, EU fees, and non-EU fees. So the important thing to note here is that all of the criteria for eligibility must be met in full prior to commencing your program. Because once a student is registered, they cannot subsequently change their fee status. And the only exception to that is nationality. So obviously it's a very, very small percentage of students who ever get to change their fee status. This is important to remember because if this year, for example, you are not eligible for the Free Fees Initiative, but you may become eligible next year, then it might be worth your while considering whether to defer your place until next year, because once you start off at EU fees, you will remain at EU fees for the duration of your studies. So the majority of students, direct entry students coming in from school are assessed automatically. And if they're found to be eligible for free fees, then that's uploaded to their UCD account. But UCD registry must assess all non-standard students for free fees eligibility. And by non-standard students, we mean students with a non-EU place of birth, or students who have previous third level experience, or anyone who has a gap between their leaving cert and enrolling in college, or who has a date of birth that's older than 18. So as you can imagine, all mature students and QQI FET students will be assessed for free fees eligibility after they enter UCD. And in order to apply to be assessed, you can go onto the UCD registry website at the link provided in these slides, and we'll be sending on the slides afterwards. Also on this page is an eligibility reckoner and a flowchart whereby you can identify yourself whether or not you're likely to be eligible for free fees or EU fees. So what does free fees mean? Because it doesn't actually mean free fees, unfortunately. The Free Fees Initiative covers the EU programme fees less the student contribution. And in addition, the student must pay the student levy. So in this particular example, the social science programme fee is €5,880. The student must pay the student contribution of €3,000 or apply to Susie to pay it on their behalf. In this example, the Free Fees Initiative would cover the remaining undergraduate tuition charge of €2,880. And the student must always pay the student levy of €254. If this particular student was instead taking a nursing programme and the programme fees were €7,880, the student contribution would remain €3,000. It never alters. The Free Fees Initiative in that scenario would cover €4,880, and again, the student must pay the student levy. So the minimum that any student must pay when they enter UCD is €254 of the student levy per year. Students who are eligible for the Free Fees Initiative would pay €3,000 or apply to Susie to pay it on their behalf. And students who are deemed as EU fees eligible in this example would pay €5,880. Students who are deemed non-EU fees eligible would pay even more. So the Free Fees Initiative is based on three criteria that the applicants must meet. And they are nationality, category, residency, or prior educational attainment. So by nationality, a student must meet the nationality criteria of being an EU, EEA, or Swiss national, have official refugee status, or be the family member of an official refugee who is granted permission to reside, people who have permission to reside on humanitarian grounds, individuals who hold a 4EU FAM on their visa, individuals who the Minister for Justice has granted permission to remain following the determination not to make a deportation order, and individuals granted subsidiary protection with permission to reside in the state. So you can see there are really specific categories of people who would qualify. It's not enough just to hold a stamp 4. You must hold a stamp 4 and also fulfill one of these categories in order to qualify for this criteria. So the Free Fees Initiative also has a residency criteria, and applicants who are over 23 must be tax resident in the EU, EEA or Swiss Confederation for 3 of the past 5 years. And applicants who are under 23 must be resident, and their parents must be tax resident in the EU for 3 of the past 5 years when they begin their programme. So it's really important to note with regard to residency, any period of residence as a student or holder of a conditional visa, for example, stamp 2 or stamp 3, is not included in the assessment years of residence. Stamp 4 visa holders must provide a letter which they would have received from the Minister stating the grounds on which they received their stamp 4 to ensure that they meet those specific nationality criteria I spoke about. And holders of a stamp 5 are not eligible for free fees. So the third criteria is prior education. And applicants must hold no qualification at level 7 or above. If a student holds a level 7 qualification, they may be eligible for funding for the add-on years in a related degree programme. Now, if there are any, there are a very, very few number of UCD programmes which this would relate to, as in general, UCD doesn't run programmes that you can take the add-on years to make your level 7 a level 8. So if you do hold a level 7 qualification, I'd advise you to touch base with me. Any years spent at higher education which did not result in an award in the past 5 years will be taken off the student's free fees entitlement. And by higher education, they refer to a level 6, level 7, or a level 8. So if, for example, a couple of years ago, you started a 2-year level 6, only completed 1 year of it, didn't do the second year, didn't come out with a qualification, then that single year would be taken off your free fees entitlement. And any year spent at an unapproved or private college will impact on the student's free fees entitlement. So by an unapproved or private college, I mean Dublin Business School or independent colleges, any of those third level colleges, they're not on the approved list from the HEA. So you may have already heard of second chance students. Second chance students are students who have already attended a third level programme at level 6, 7 or 8 in an approved college, but who have not completed it and have been out of higher education for 5 years or more. And students in this scenario would be entitled to a second round of funding. But it's really important to note that students who have already attended a third level programme in an unapproved college and have not completed it can never qualify as second chance students, regardless of how long ago that was. And their free fees entitlement will always be reduced by the number of years they spent at the unapproved college. If you have had some prior HEI attendance, then you should get a letter from that HEI stating the dates when you attended. If the attendance was in the past 5 years, the amount of free fees claimed from the HEA must be stated. And that's really in your best interest to get as much information into that letter as possible. So if, for example, you attended but only attended 1 semester and not 2 semesters, make sure it's stated that your free fees entitlement for 1 semester only was drawn down. Or if you attended for 2 years, but one of those years was a repeat year of study, ensure that that's put in to the letter so that you can claim your full entitlement. In that scenario, you would only lose 1 year of funding and not the 2 years because the second year was a repeat year of study. So it's really important to get as much into that letter as possible to ensure that UCD can claim your full entitlement, which will reduce the amount that you must pay. So this is a bit of a mouthful, but the Free Fees Initiative applies to the tuition element of the programme fee up to the default number of credits required for the award and will not time out after a certain period. So what that means is, if for example you're taking a Bachelor of Arts, which is a 3-year degree, A 3-year degree is 180 credits. So the Free Fees Initiative will cover you up to 180 credits, no matter how long it takes you to complete those 180 credits. Now that's not the same for the Susie. So if you're not Susie dependent and you are claiming the Free Fees Initiative and you want to take a lighter workload over 1 or 2 years and extend your degree from a 3-year to a 4-year degree, that is possible without any financial disadvantage to you. But any additional modules that you take by way of substitution or repeats or resits must be covered by the student in full. It wouldn't be covered by the Free Fees Initiative. So that's the Free Fees Initiative. If you don't qualify for the Free Fees Initiative, you may qualify for EU fee assessment. So the only criteria is ordinary residence in the EU, EEA or Switzerland for 3 of the past 5 years. And your nationality is irrelevant. So regardless of what your nationality is, if you've been tax resident in the EU, EEA, then you will qualify for EU fee assessment. It's really important to note that any period of residence as an asylum seeker is included in the assessment years of residence only after the applicant has been granted official refugee status or permission to remain prior to starting their course. So if you are currently an asylum seeker and you're going to be starting a course in September, then you won't be eligible for EU fee assessment. And if this is the case, then I advise you to look on our website for information regarding the UCD Sanctuary Programme, which is now open for applications and will close on the 7th of July. So if you're not sure whether your EU fee is eligible or not, you can take the assessment test online, and there's a link there which we will be circulating afterwards. There's also a really useful flowchart on the registry website, and we will be circulating the link to that as well, whereby you answer the questions truthfully and work your way through the flowchart, and it will tell you whether or not you're EU fee eligible. So in addition to that financial support, you will have also heard of Susie, who are the Grants Authority. And the Susie grant may cover the student contribution of €3,000 for qualifying students. And in addition, depending on your income, Susie may also award a maintenance grant. And the amount of the maintenance grant varies depending on the distance from your home to the college and your household income. So you can get further information with regard to their grants and their thresholds on the Susie website, which we've included a link to there. So it's important to note that Susie criteria are similar, but they are not identical to the Free Fees Initiative criteria. They're the same 3 overarching criteria of nationality, residency, and prior educational attainment, but the detail is slightly different. So it's very important for you to check on both independent websites whether or not you are eligible for the Free Fees Initiative, and in addition, whether you are eligible for Susie. It's not unheard of at all for a student to be eligible for the Free Fees Initiative and not eligible for Susie, or eligible for Susie and not eligible for the Free Fees Initiative. So please double check. So nationality, there are the different categories that Susie will accept as your nationality, qualifying nationality. So double check whether or not you meet those criteria. They are slightly different to the Free Fees. And with regard to residency, for Susie, applicants must be ordinarily resident in the EU, EEA or Swiss Confederation for 3 of the past 5 years. But if a student has been living in the EU, but not in the Republic of Ireland for the past 3 years, then they are deemed a tuition student. And a tuition student, if deemed eligible, will only receive the fee portion of the grant and will not qualify for any maintenance payments. So prior education, again, is slightly different. So as I said earlier, students who hold a level 7 degree or a level 7 qualification and are taking a level 8 qualification in an unrelated subject won't qualify for Free Fees Initiative funding. However, if the same student qualifies for Susie and holds a level 7, they can qualify as a progressing if they are going on to a level 8. So for the Free Fees Initiative, level 7 and level 8 are dealt with in one bubble, but for Susie, the student who's moving from a level 7 to a level 8 is deemed as progressing. So this is really important. If you aren't eligible for the Free Fees Initiative under that criteria, you may be eligible for your full fees, not just your student contribution, but also the undergraduate tuition charge to be covered by Susie. So if you fall into that category of holding a level 7, please do get in touch with me. So applicant class, and this is particularly relevant to mature students. Students who are living with their parents or guardians between April and October of the year prior to entry will be classified as dependent students, regardless of their age. They will be assessed on their income and their parents' income combined. So it doesn't matter if you're 24 or if you're 42. If you are living with your parents in April and October of the year prior to entry, your income and your parents' income will be taken into account. Students who are over 23 and living independently of their parents before October of the year prior to entry will be assessed on their own income only. Susie are very specific about the documents that they will accept as proof of independent living. So it's very important you log on to their website and make sure that you can provide one of the 4 or 5 documents which they find acceptable for proof of this. It is not unheard of for students who are living in a house share and perhaps not registered with the PRTB to have difficulty improving their independent status from their parents. So it's important that you register or check that out as early as possible, but so you can gather the relevant documentation in time for your application. So Susie have a number of really useful information videos on their website, and I've provided a link to them here. The videos cover really in plain English the different qualification criteria and are really useful. So I would recommend that you check them out. So in addition to Susie, some students may also qualify for the Back to Education allowance. Back to Education allowance is for students who are over 21 years of age on a qualifying social welfare payment for 9 months in advance of coming into college. And you must make the arrangements to go on to a Back to Education payment before you start college. And you can do that together with your caseworker at your local NTRIO office. So students who are in receipt of Back to Education payments can qualify for Susie to cover their fees or their student contribution, but they won't get a maintenance grant. But in the majority of cases, students are financially better off claiming a Back to Education allowance in place of a Susie maintenance grant. But this is not always the case. So do your own sums and make sure that you're claiming the one that is most beneficial to you. So in addition to those financial supports, the Higher Education Authority also provides some small financial supports to students. The Student Support Fund is open each year and students can apply every year. It provides €500 towards your college expenses. And it's for students who has a household income of €49,720 or below. And the student must produce receipts of €500 relevant to the current academic year. And those receipts can be for college books, but also for utilities, for rent, and for groceries. So be sure to start keeping some receipts from August and September so that you're prepared in October to make your application. In addition, students who are parenting alone can get a top-up payment through the Access and Lifelong Learning Centre. And if you're a full-time student, that would be €500. And if you're a part-time student, that's €250. And the Student Support Fund also offers a part-time student fund. So someone who is parenting alone and is on a low income and is on a part-time program can claim €250 from the support fund and a further €250 from the lone parent fund. In addition, all students are able to avail of the University Welfare Fund, regardless of your income, if you experience unexpected financial difficulties during your time at UCD. And in order to do that, you can contact your student advisor. So for mature students, that's me. And for other students, there's a student advisor based in your program area. So in addition to those supports, UCD offer the largest means-tested scholarship program in the country. We have over 100 scholarships to award through the Cochran UCD Scholarship Program. Scholarships are awarded to scholars who demonstrate clear motivation to pursue higher education despite educational challenges, and demonstrate leadership to help others who are experiencing similar challenges to pursue third-level education. So these are competitive scholarships. The information is on our website. So I advise you to have a look there and start preparing your applications. Applications open in September 2020, and those who are awarded receive €1,500 per year of programme. So that's really a significant amount of money, which will make engaging in university life much easier for those who are awarded. In addition, there's the 1916 bursary, and this bursary aims to provide support for economically disadvantaged students from groups traditionally underrepresented in higher education. So these groups could be mature students, students with a disability, students from all of the students must be economically disadvantaged. Students who come into a QQI FET route. So you'll find a list of the target groups on our website. Again, it's a competitive application process, but this scholarship awards €5,000 per year program. So over the course of your 4-year degree, it's really a significant amount of money. And all of the information is available now on our website, but the closing date for this scholarship is 18th of September. So I'd urge you to look further into this scholarship and apply if you are eligible to do so. So the other scholarships that our students do avail of, the St. Vincent de Paul offer a number of educational bursaries every year, and they normally are around €1,500 per year program. And they have a central application system, and students whose family are already linked in with St. Vincent de Paul really should contact their chapter, or have a look on the St. Vincent de Paul look into more information about those scholarships, which are really worthwhile. Some councils also offer educational bursaries, and credit unions often offer educational scholarships. So I've seen them often between €850 and €1,000. And if you are a member of a credit union, then I would urge you just to ask behind the counter for any information regarding that. They're often advertised July and August. So that's the information I wanted to share with you. I'm happy to answer any questions. As I said, we can do so at the end, or you can email me any questions. If you want to meet with me, we can have a Zoom meeting to discuss your particular circumstance. My email address is catherine.formey@ucd.ie, and I'd be delighted to meet with you. There's more information on our website, and we've provided the address here. And I think now, will we have a look at some questions, Colin, or will we pass over to Carla first, maybe, to tell about her experience of UCD as a mature student?
I think we can move on to Carla. We've had a few questions coming in, which I've tried to answer. Hopefully they were all clear answers, but
Perfect.
I think it's still unclear. Please do pop questions into the Q&A, and either myself, Enya, or Catherine will try our best to answer them. So yeah, I think we'll move on to Carla. As Catherine already said, Carla was a mature student who entered UCD in 2016 to study social sciences. She then moved on to a master's in public policy. She's the current graduate officer in the student union at UCD, and she's also the former auditor of the Mature Students Society at UCD. So she has a lot under her belt there. If you have a question for Carla, again, pop it in the Q&A, but I think I'll kick things off, Carla. And my first question to you would be, could you tell us a little bit about your background before coming to UCD, or what your educational background was?
Okay, so I actually had little in comparison to, say, others. And so I went and I dived into a level 5 in social studies in Bray and Biffy, a further education college. And with that, I started to build my confidence, and I started to build my skills around writing, etc. I didn't apply to the CAO that year. I felt myself personally I wasn't ready. So I actually went on to do a level 6 then in advanced social studies. And that was in Sallynoggin, another further education college. And from that, then I started to build the confidence that I really needed to enter a university. I did have the normal anxieties that any student would have coming in. Is my writing okay? My thoughts even, can I critically think? Putting that into practice. And these were all really alleviated then when I came into UCD with the different types of workshops that we had upon entering. We would have had a mature student writing workshop, and I know they do maths ones as well, which weren't relevant to me, but I know they're immense help to other students that may need them different workshops and experiences coming in. And I know that's gotten broader over the years of me being there. I know Access and all that, and even programs have kind of opened up the orientation and the entering of students, you know, to make them feel welcome and settled, and to alleviate any issues that they may have coming in, and any anxieties or stressors, or, and that's not to say them all, but you know, there's stuff that you have to work on yourself. Um, but yeah, no, it was quite, only for the level 6 I feel that I had the confidence then to come through. And I suppose coming in as a mature student, I would have done the mature student, the MSAT test as well. And for me, that was another anxiety. But again, I know Access and widening participation committees have been working towards making that more accessible to students as well. Um, but it's something that these have all passed. These guys that are here in the webinar today, that time has passed for them. You know, we'll be seeing them shortly. So yeah, no, for me, that was I didn't have very much education, and I only started, I was about 24, 24, 25, yeah. So I was a late starter, but I powered on through the certain years, and now, yeah, I ended up doing my master's in public policy, and that's where I am now.
Yeah, that's great. So you spoke a bit about the anxieties you had coming into UCD. I think even students, you know, if they do have some prior higher education background, it still is kind of daunting if it's your first time at UCD, you know, such a big campus. And you did speak a little bit about the supports already, but was there anything particularly useful you found to kind of help alleviate those anxieties, or kind of make things a bit easier for you?
Yeah, so my peer mentor, for me, was huge. Anthony, amazing. I would have been lost without him within my first year. Even going into the masters, you know, he's been always supportive, and has even going for graduate officer, you know, again being very supportive. So for me, the peer mentor and now the access leaders as well will be immense support for students. And then as I went on, the societies. So in the first 3 weeks of, yeah, first 3 weeks of semester, you will have orientation, etc. But there will be a freshers time, and that will be for societies. We've over 70 societies, I think, active societies at the minute, and being just embraced into all that from in the first 3 weeks, you know. And I would have joined the Mature Student Society. That was one of the first societies I joined, and for me, that was a great sense of support, and the friendships and the networks, and just being able to be a part of something in such a big campus. It's really essential for students to ensure that you do get involved. And I know for matures, especially matures that have kids, that will be difficult with your time. But there is times when there's coffee mornings, and you might have an hour between class, that, or even 15 minutes between class, to pop in, because you will find people that are on the same level as you in any of the societies, whatever you're interested in. And for me, it was the mature stock. I found people that were over 23, I suppose. And that's another thing, that, you know, there is a lot of students that are below that age. And you don't feel isolated. I won't say that, because I never did. But I think that's because of the Mature Student Society, and having that mature support, that made it that I wasn't feeling isolated. So I would encourage everyone, whatever your interests are, from Harry Potter to trampoline and juggling, do join a society when you come in. And then the other basic supports of the library supports being shown around the library, access the writing centre. I know there's a math centre. Again, wasn't relevant to me, but I definitely know people that use it and have found it very beneficial. Again, as Catherine had put in her great presentation of the financial supports as well. I know it's a big focus for mature students, and having that extra support there is immense for them. It really is. So yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
the
that's
support
great.
network I had.
Yeah, it's a really good point you make as well, because, you know, being a UCD student isn't all about studying or all about academia. There is the social side as well. And as you said yourself, whatever interest you have, there is a UCD society for it. There's
More than likely.
so many, I can never keep track of them. So yeah, no, that was a really good point. You know, just about the social side of UCD. So Carla, I think you've been involved with almost everything at UCD. what would you say has been your biggest achievement to date as a student at UCD?
I have loads. I do, and I wouldn't single anyone out. I have the President's Award for my extracurricular activities. I received the Advantage Award, which everyone can go for. Might I add, the Embark Award and the Advantage Award, everyone can go for that. It's just based on your extracurricular activities. And for me, the main thing, other than mature soccer now, the graduate officer, would be the charitable stuff I've done within the society. For me, Homeless Period Ireland was one of the main charities that we looked at and we tried to help. We raised over €1,000 for them. We collected hundreds and hundreds of sanitary products. And for me, just being able to give back and utilising the society in that way and getting everyone involved in it was one of the bigger highlights. As much as all the awards, etc., and scholarship, I was given the Colin scholarship as well for my masters, and they're all huge. You know, they really, really are huge. But for me, giving back and being able to help those, specifically women in need, and for such a, because it's such a small thing that we need, you know, just being able to help people in direct provision, etc., because that's who Homeless Period Ireland help with, and that's been one of the biggest achievements I've been able to do on campus, thankfully.
And so yeah, you've been involved in a lot there, but what about life after UCD? Do you already have plans for what you're going to do once you're finished up?
So the plan, whether that goes accordingly or not, would be to work in policy. I would really want to work in policy implementation or policy evaluation. That's the goal. So even right now with the graduate officer and being able to do that as well, because that again is policy. There's a lot of policy there. You're sifting through a lot of policy, but I'm also getting to help students, which is just, it's amazing to be able to do that. You know, it was kind of something that, because I myself was a peer mentor for 2 years. So for me, being able to utilize that knowledge and utilize, you know, the networks that I have built up over the years to help students and to help them navigate through their time in UCD it's really beneficial to me, you know. And then the experience that I gained from that, I'm hoping will land me in some good policy job. I would, if essentially, would love to work for IGES, which is an evaluation service for policy in Ireland here, and it has a range of services and policy sectors that it analyses. And housing would be the kind of area that I would love to get into finally. Yeah.
Well, you're definitely well prepared for it anyway. That's
fingers crossed.
Catherine, I know you're keeping an eye on the Q&A. Is there anything there that you wanted to kind of direct to Carla, or are you all good? You're on mute.
Sorry, I think I've got to all of the questions. Two have just popped up there. One with regard to childcare, and if it's possible to avail of the UCD creche if you're a mature student. And yes, it is possible. Students do get a somewhat reduced rate, and students can also avail of the National Childcare Scheme. So that scheme has been updated recently. So I'd advise you log on to the National Childcare Scheme website and put in your financial details. They also have an eligibility reckoner where you can put in all your financial details and it will pop up with the amount that you would be entitled to in a childcare subsidy. So that was that one. And then I think there's another one with regard to student rent and accommodation on campus. So there are a number of different options for accommodation on campus and they vary in price. There's also what we have an accommodation pad website via UCD whereby you can log on and see other accommodation available in the area. In general, digs is the cheapest accommodation around UCD, whereby you'd be able to stay with a family or a single person and rent a room in their house. Sometimes meals are included, sometimes they're not, and that's all factored into the price. So in general, that's the cheapest option for UCD students. And if you, at the moment, I think they are taking bookings or taking notification of interest for accommodation on campus as well. Okay, so I think that's it with regard to the queries. If I didn't get to your query, or for some reason didn't answer it sufficiently in the little chat, then please do drop me an email at catherine.tormey@ucd.ie. Otherwise, I just want to say thanks a million to Colin and to Enya for helping with the chat. And a big thanks to Carla for giving up her time to be here today. You've given up so much of your time for UCD students over the year, and we're so appreciative of it. And I know the students are so appreciative of it. But thank you for that lovely insight into your time at UCD. And I hope it gives some encouragement to people that, you know, this is a really positive experience for you. It can be a really positive experience for you, that we're here for you to support you in any way we can. We have financial, academic and social supports offered through the All Centre. And we're experienced in supporting mature students and just ready and waiting for your queries so that we can help you out too. So I hope to hear from you per email, and otherwise I will see you all at the All Welcome at the beginning of September. So thanks a million.